There are as many ways to start a mission, but we're going to be focusing up on that of what happens when you're handed over that of a pre-existing level. Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing and making the games that you all love. You're joining me, your host, Principal Mission Designer, Max Bears. I hope that you're all well and that your loved ones are well as well. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this, whether it's morning, evening, or night. I do appreciate it from all of you. This one I'm not going to be showing my face. I've got into the habit of that. I hope that people are not too repulsed by my looks, but this one's more, it's been a long Sunday of adulting in terms of cleaning, cooking, all these things. And I'm just like, oh man, just worn out and just trying to make sure we get this done as well, because we want to make sure that we still hit our 3 episodes per month of this deadline that I'm trying to give myself with that of the podcast. And I really appreciate again that you all listen to it. Now, this one's a little bit different. We're going to go back later into this year, I think, like interviews again, talking about games. But with everything that's gone on with that of how the year ended last year, I've been obviously trying to catch my footing and also trying to focus on trying to optimize the episodes, right? I like to have, how do I say, guests on the show, but also freedom for me not to have to worry too much about schedules. I obviously have guests from around the world, which is incredible, but again, scheduling that can always be a bit of a challenge. But I will be bringing back on guests and playing through games as well. I haven't had a chance to play through games as much as I would have liked to, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to bore you with the details, because really the main topic for today that I really want to focus on is the element from that which we start creating levels, right? Because, for example, with me recently, I obviously joined in the studio over at Hangar, and this wasn't while they're at the start of the process. I can't say much more than that. And it got me thinking about like how we are handed levels. Like sometimes you are there for a start of a mission. Missions take a while, shall we say, to get approved, or they might be redesigned. So you get to start from square one, really have your input in. Other times you might be given a mission and it is almost finished to that of a standard, say it's up to that of beta or alpha, and really you're there to kind of improve certain either aspects, maybe a certain section level. And again, how do we approach that for it? So I want to talk about that and kind of go through this, because it's not really something that's discussed too much upon, but I think it is something that is very common, and there are elements, both good and bad, that I really want to highlight and kind of talk about for it. But first, let's have a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is none other than me. What I've done, everyone, and I hope you're excited for this, is I've actually created a level design kind of store. What I've done in this store is put up different kinds of tips and tricks that you can find there, whether that be my actual ebook itself, to that of level design pamphlets focused on different things such as traversal, stealth, breaking into the industry, as well as different talks that I have done which you cannot find anywhere else other than on this store. So if you are looking to improve on your level design skills and processes, then check out the level design store, which will be down in the description below, where there'll be a link to find this. All you need to do is head over to gumroad.com/level design lobby. I hope you like what you see, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thank you, and now back to the show. So let's go on to the process. Say you've just been handed a mission, right? You are here now being told, okay, insert your great name here. I'd like you to take over this mission from so-and-so, let's say from Stuart, simply because Stuart has already got so much on their plate. We would have given it to Ali, but now she's responsible for this area. So it falls upon you now to take over from this point. And from this element now, the biggest thing for you is two things from it that I really recommend. Firstly, speak to the lead. Talk about, okay, with you taking over, what do they expect from this, right? Some leads might prepare checklists of, okay, we need to get it to alpha standard, which means it needs to be XYZ, have this function, that function, blah, blah, blah. Or others might say, hey, it's a total redesign, but you grasping and understanding right off the bat, oh, okay, the lead expects this from me, instantly clears up the elements of possible confusion. It also states out the deliverables that you are looking and moving forward to get, right, team? And that's a really important thing. From that there, you now want to go head off and speak to that of the previous owner. In this example, it's Stuart, and play through it with them. You want to do a playthrough yourself, but also with them as well. Understand what their design was for it. Understand what it is that they wanted to make or was unable to due to time or constraints, and kind of talk about their plans from there. From this now, we have the understanding of our objectives with this mission, but now we understand how it's currently laid out. What I then say to you, depending on the state it's in, try play it, right? Play through it, make your notes, go through and be like, okay, what do I like about it? What do I think can be improved? And that'll start to kind of tie in where now you can kind of look through the overall goals, objectives, read the documentation, and from this point forward now, great news, easy peasy, we're able to start aligning. Some of the feedback you might have might not match the deliverables. Maybe it doesn't meet the overall theme that was the intent from the previous designer. And this is where you can start to go, okay, this works, this doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And you can start to shorten down that list and just make sure it all aligns. Now, the big thing that I really want to stress in this certain part, right? Really want to hammer home, because I'm telling you this from personal experience, stuff that I have made mistakes on. So I don't want you to repeat my mistakes, team. Mistakes comes from the element of feeling that you can't change much. It's now in your control. It's now in your power, and you should make it how you want to make it, right? Obviously, in the example, Stuart has done the best of their ability, and you obviously want to honor elements that they've done. However, don't feel that you are handcuffed to those ideas. Because at the end of the day, we all design differently. If the example of, say, Ali took over from Stuart and it wasn't you, Ali would design it differently than you, right? But it's now been passed on to you, and Stuart designs differently from Ali, right? All these things. The examples that I'm saying with this is, you don't want to lose your design process. You don't want to lose those unique elements that you have for it. You've been brought on for this to bring your skill and expertise on this. So really remember that. Obviously, like I said, if we've been told, hey, we only have 3 months, then you're probably not going to be able to redesign the entire mission. So what you're going to focus on instead is the core areas that are missing, right? Say it's in a spaceship level. Say, well, okay, the cargo hold is still lacking because there's a boss fight and it's not been designed. The hull of the ship where we get the quest is still very unorganized and people don't know what they need to interact with. Great news. That's now on you to do that, all right? Figure that out from it here. And that is the element to remember, right? Is time is not always on your side. That's a really important aspect to understand when asking your lead. Maybe you can speak to production. How long do we have? Once you've gathered all this information, your own notes, elements like that, introduce yourself to the team, right? Because it may be confirmed already in the team of design. Hey, you're taking over. It's on you. But that information may not always be passed down to other people that work in it, different disciplines. So now we need to introduce ourselves and in the best way forward, right? The last thing you want to do is come in and be like, oh yeah, we're changing and scrapping everything. That's not it. Just as we did the playthrough with Stuart, it's now on us to play through with the team. Now this can be one of the biggest challenges already for you, especially if you're working with enviro art. And when I say that, not all environment artists are bad or anything like that. They're not even bad at all. They are just extremely busy. And from this, we now have to make sure that we would like to understand them. So really, it's important to get on a call for this. If you can, great in person, but hybrid work is definitely in full swing. But what you really want is preferably the whole team together. Now, I have seen it where, for example, there is a channel, a room, whatever it is for internal messaging that you may use for the team where, for example, there is like 50 members in this channel, but like half of them are directors, old members who used to work there, blah, blah, blah. Really get down and find that who are on the, and when I say grunt level, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. I mean on those who are actually touching the editor, opening up the editor, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't need to speak to the art director. Really, the environment artist will already have contact, will already understand what the art director wants. Narrative, the exact same. So what we're really looking for when playing it is making sure that we're hearing what are people happy with, what are they not happy with, where are the big stresses in terms of their own timesheets and deliverable, which is why it's important to talk to production. All these elements here are super duper great for understanding your team overall, great for teamwork, and also I've seen it where people can get super standoffish, and rightfully so, because normally when someone does come in to work with the team, as always, changes are inevitable, but we want to make sure that the team is aware of why we're making these changes, why it is important that we're making these changes, and not trying to ruin anything for them, right? Like, that's a huge element that we need to understand and really need to convey to the team. In an episode last month, we talked about inspiring teams through design, etc. So by having this and making people feel that, hey, they're heard, they're listened to, that's the most important thing. The biggest element and the biggest trouble here is you can have people that become standoffish against it because they're like, oh no, you just stick to your area of design. The thing that needs to ring true for everyone is you are working together to make the best mission possible. And for example, in my title, it says mission designer. Other places might call it quest designer. But people be like, yeah, well, that means you just move boxes or script things. When you say work on the best missions, you mean it as a whole, right? Knowing what VFX are trying to make with this, it aligns with your vision. And getting everyone on board on that versus it being discipline versus discipline. Every one of us has something incredible and amazing to pitch and bring to each thing. So I really think opening the floor up to that, making it clear if you have suggestions, now's the time to talk because you want to hear it. I think the more that you do that, the better.
At Level Design Lobby, we believe everybody has a story to tell. Hobbyist or student, freelancer or veteran, we made it our mission to unite those who share our passion for creating and developing great games. Thanks to our generous Patreon backers, we've been able to do just that. So if you've already pledged your support, thank you. If not, you too can ensure the future of Level Design Lobby, helping us to create even more exciting content, collaborations, interviews, and much more. With awesome perks and rewards, whether you're a seasoned professional or just getting started, you're sure to find something for you. Want to share tips, tricks, and advice with passionate, like-minded developers? Our awesome community Discord has you covered. Fancy practicing your level design, creating strong portfolio content, and having fun? Then try our level design weekends. Or perhaps you want to individually discuss your work, hone your skills, or level up your career? Then consider our one-on-one mentorships. If you share our vision, then go to patreon.com/Level Design Lobby for more information and to pledge your support. Thank you.
The second thing is, and this one is a bit more risky and kind of slightly counter to what I just mentioned, but sometimes in these situations, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission, right? Because people have already come in and think it's going in this direction. They don't necessarily have the same fresh eyes that you may do, right? If that's the case, well, you need to make sure that you're doing it for the overall better, not an ego thing. Again, it really depends where you are. If we are trying to reach beta or we're past beta, we know that scrapping things all over isn't going to work. I think one of the other things is bringing your lead into a meeting can go one of two ways, right? If it's the first meeting and you bring your lead in, it can almost feel like you're trying to bring in someone who outranks someone to do this, right? And that can already create tensions. I made this mistake once on Cyberpunk where I included my lead in an email and a quest designer I worked with thought I'd included him to try tell him what to do. And that was like a real big mistake and misunderstanding, because that's not what I was trying to do. I was including my lead there so he could see the time that I needed to make these changes because I believed that they were important. So it really can be a challenge when you're trying to show people, oh yeah, no, this is what we're trying to do. But you don't want to do it because if, for example, we just have your lead in but not other leads, that can cause a little back and forth and can cause kind of like seeing as a power play, right? Which is not what we're doing. We're trying to build a dynamic on the best foot. From it, then I think it's, again, getting everyone on board with your vision, make them clear like what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. On Cyberpunk, we worked on a side quest that got cancelled, but this level had been passed around 4 times, I think. And I just remember from everyone, they're like, we had a playthrough together, like I would be the 4th designer through it, and you could see like someone had changed it, but like no one was happy and constantly made their own adjustments. And that gave me the confidence to be like, well, if they're all making the changes, why can't I, right? But it is different, as I said, if it is, hey, at the art's final, all you can do is move cover around this location, okay. And if you need to move things around, speak to your artist so you're not adding any out of touch props for it. But the most important thing I said is understanding where you are in terms of the process, what leads want. I talk about this simply because we hear examples, especially around GDC, where they worked on this mission not consistently for 2 years, but on and off 2 years because they were there from the start, and it was great because of that. But I've had it on every game that I've worked on where a lot of levels will get passed around to different designers simply because time, right? Not every member has the time that they'd love to have. I think there's a great example of Cyberpunk. There's this gig where you go to a funeral and a morgue for it. Now, that was done by Kendall Husband originally. Seb McBride came around, touched something up, and then the final days of production, polish, was for me to go make tweaks on that. It's still generally Kendall's layout because he did the vast majority, but you can see people had to come on to it because Kendall got it so far, but then he had to focus on his main mission. Seb came in because he was now in charge of just checking all the gigs. I came in because then Seb was trying to manage too many, and then we had to do it that way for it. And it's vice versa, where I've been on a business trip and then had someone look over my level because there was a deadline I wasn't there for due to business trips. So it's always the case, team. It's always the case. So I just want to give an example and just show you that not everything's the great easy transition of from day one, you're talking with the directors, you're making the mission very clearly what it is, right? And I just think it's important to share that. But just because that's happening, never lose your creative spirit in what you're trying to change. But also these are the steps that I would recommend when heading off and getting a mission like this, team. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. It is a little bit different, but again, I think it's a nice peek behind the curtain, kind of what aspects work I've experienced in my career thus far. I hope that you all find that useful. At the end of the day, that's why we do this, my friends. And yeah, so thank you very much. If you have any questions about this or any other processes, then please do reach out to me. You can contact me on Twitter, which is @MaxPez. You can email into the show, leveldesignlobby@gmail.com, and any support just to help make sure that this covers production costs and make sure we get guests on, please head over to patreon.com/leveldesignlobby. Thank you all, take care, and I'll catch you all next time.